Chief Perks is we met with the leaders of the Traffic Advisory Commission to discuss potential revisions / implementation of the policy that was before us a couple of weeks ago, right before Thanksgiving. And it sounds like what we are going to do is attempt to do a trial run on Swan in order to give some relief to the residents on Swan, get some data and bring it back to council in order that we can figure out what's the best approach going forward from this point. But at least this would alleviate a lot of the stress and potential danger on Swan, and then we can readdress from there and figure out what the next best policy or the next best option is going forward. That is it for me.
So before we go on, let me just amplify that since I was at that meeting. The expectation is that that will be in place by the time students come back from the winter break. So that first week in January, we hope that we can get that done in that period of time, which I think is fine, given the city manager has the power for a short-term ordinance in that place, an emergency. The second thing is we're going to use that time to try and re-engage the school district on some discussions about alternatives. And so hopefully we'll have some productivity there as well. Please go ahead.
Thanks. Sustainability Commission met last night and they are talking about their priorities for 2024. I know they realize it's going to take a couple sessions for them to figure out, but the main focus was how they can work to move forward the solar rebate program and the micro grant program, and how they can work with other commissions and other organizations such as the Green Dining Alliance to get those going. And that is it. And I did attend the Crossroads evening, and that was fun. It was a fun, different kind of time of day to go. It was good to be in that neighborhood and walk around in an area where I know I drive a lot. So it was good to be there and engaging with residents and business owners.
Excellent.
Thanks.
No updates, Mayor.
I would just do one update that I know the Architectural Review Board is looking at a couple of folks rotating off. So we have an opening there that it's kind of rare that those come along, I guess. So any interested architects, we'd love to hear from folks.
All right. City Clerk. All right. And Dr. Peoples.
Hi, excuse me. Good evening, everyone. So, Madam Mayor, actually, there are some updates. We've received a really large SS4A grant, so Safer Streets for All. Really excited about that. Hopefully, people read about it in the Friday page. There will be lots more detail coming, but it's a demonstration grant. It allows us to put some pilot things into place using our sustainability committee, our traffic advisory. We've gotten some great suggestions over the past year and a half on how we can make communities safer. And so a lot of those were written into the grant. So again, it's a 3-year grant, $2 million, lots more coming forward about it. We'll start having our first planning meetings with our federal project manager mid-January. But really what I want to say is that this is huge for the community, and my thanks go out to the staff who've worked on it. It's going to be a ton of work over the next 3 years, but the rewards are going to be great. So I wanted to share that as well. And that's all for right now, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you. I do have a couple of things. I was pleased to be able to go to the Green Business Challenge luncheon last Friday. This is our second year for being an awardee in that program. It's really cool to hear what people are doing, and exciting that we continue to participate in that. And I know the plan is to do so moving forward. But I wanted to take a minute and say thank you to our Sustainability Commission, Sean Finnegan, as well as everyone in our Public Works Department who have worked so hard to get things implemented for that, and other city departments. And I think it's just worth noting that, you know, I get to show up and people say what a great job Webster Gross is doing, and I get to shake everybody's hand, and I really did very little of it. So thank you to everybody who got that job done for us. We had a Metro Mayor's meeting, which was a very depressing legislative preview. And so I'll keep you informed as we know what's going to happen. There'll be additional efforts to reduce taxes, especially sales taxes on food. There may be some effort to fix the property tax bill for seniors a little bit. So that's a little clearer, and some other things. But that's a good conduit for us to get information. Also attended the KVC open house, which was really interesting and good to hear about what was going on there, and meet some of the people and providers that they work with the youth, both in our community and much more broadly. And then finally, tomorrow, the senior roundtable, which former Mayor Welch continues to lead, will do a holiday distribution throughout the community for older people who do not really have family during the holiday time. And I wanted to give a special thanks to our firefighters and our police department, because they are very strong participants in that program and help us figure out who might need those visits and those gifts at that time. And they make some of those visits themselves. So thanks to both the police department and the fire department for their participation there. All right, so I see, I almost went on without doing this, but this is the time. Please go right ahead.
Sorry, you brought up the property taxes and the St. Louis counties. Is there anything that we as a council, as a local municipality, do you know that we need to discuss to correspond with the county and any action that we do? I'm sure it's a legal question, but when I was reading the counties, I'm very confused by it myself. And I didn't know if there's anything more that this city needs to discuss to correspond with what the county's doing.
So obviously our city attorney is not with us at the moment. I don't see him on, but do you want to make any comments? And I can afterwards. Yeah.
Certainly. So Madam Mayor and members, the draft from the county does include the legal supposition that the legislature has made that the county can reduce the taxes that you have levied and ordered. So the county's operation will look at the entire tax levy as part of the reduction. I think that's the legal argument that certainly the school districts will look at, and others as they look at this implementation, whether or not the county who doesn't vote for the levy that you all set in the rate, whether the county has that authority under the law. It's not clear in the bill.
Right.
You can read it either way. So if the city wishes to discuss that, we certainly can schedule some time, I think, to discuss both the litigation and potentials, and then also the legislative issues. There also is with the county's conversations about cuts. It sounds like the county executive is maybe waylaying the implementation of the program, which wouldn't start until the tax year 2025, so next tax year will not be affected by the property tax credit.
And again, this might be more legalese than necessary, but is there any benefit to this city, this municipality discussing it and voting on the idea that if the county obviously has the authority to assess county taxes, but is there any legal argument that this municipality should buttress that and do the exact same thing in regards to municipal taxes?
I don't think that there's been that conversation. I think people have been operating under the idea that the county is going to reduce the whole levy. And so I think the only real conversation for this council is if you disagree with that assessment in the law and then the implementation of it. Certainly if you agree with it and believe that the county should be able to reduce your levy, then the council doesn't need to do anything. But I'm sure there will be litigation of some type from some party that will address that.
And that's part of the state, in this update, that's part of the discussion in the state legislature. What is it that they have to, quote, fix in order to buttress their case when litigation does come? And there really hasn't been, at least among the municipal league as well as the mayors who meet regularly, hasn't been a discussion about further action that's needed by councils.
Gotcha.
What if you agree? Obviously, if you disagree, you can say that, but it doesn't appear to be all that useful. All right. Anybody else? Okay, let us move on to our topics. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the collective bargaining agreement. We have with us the District Vice President, John Youngblood of the IAFF Local 2665. I think, Dr. Peoples, you wanted to start this discussion just with a few highlights. Am I recalling that correctly?
You are. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll also note that Captain Prinster is online with us. He was planning on being in person, but schedules didn't allow, as mine didn't allow for me to be there in person either. So I believe he's going to speak at a later date. But as you noted, I believe Captain Youngblood is with us in presence, and I think he will be making some comments. But what I wanted to share, as community and council knows, is that this was a long negotiation period. It was difficult for community, it was difficult for staff, and we could not be more pleased that we were able to reach an agreement. I believe the agreement is equitable and it's fair to all parties, and it's something that will be able to move us into the future. So incredibly grateful that we were able to do that. In terms of highlights, if anybody is interested in reading the whole CBA, it of course is a public document. We always have that online. We've also got some of the highlights available in various formats if people want to see that. But essentially, so the staffing model that the city had desired, we were able to retain, and also clearly making sure that safety protocols are maintained and that community is taken care of, as well as our firefighters. In terms of some of the pay changes, it did include an overall 8% for this fiscal year and 5% moving forward, for a total of 23% increase over the fiscal year. More importantly than that, we were able to build in some longevity stipends as well as some retention stipends. And as if people are following hiring for public safety, whether it's firefighters or police officers across the region, retention is incredibly important right now. So I think we'll be a leader in that area. And I'm also pleased to say that we're fully staffed within the fire department, as well as the police department. And so I would like to believe that our hiring incentive within police, as well as these retention bonuses, will help us stay there. So that's all I wanted to share, Madam Mayor. I would turn it back over to you.
All right, thank you. And Vice President Youngblood, if you want to come up and if you have anything to say, and then Mr. Prinster, I know you're on there. You've been promoted to panelist. So after Mr. Youngblood, you're welcome to make comments as well. Please go right ahead. Welcome. Green, there you go.
First off, good evening, council. Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to you this evening on behalf of the firefighters and Local 2665. It was a long process to get to this point. I have attended the shop meeting that when we presented this contract to the firefighters, as well as meetings with the executive board of the local. And, I think this is a huge step in the right direction. I'll echo what Dr. People said, that I think that this is going to really help attract and retain quality firefighters in the city of Webster Groves, which is a benefit to the residents as well. So, again, thank you to the city's bargaining team and the entire city, the shop, the leadership. There's a lot of work that was put into this contract, but in the end, collectively, we did it, and that's why it's a collective bargaining agreement. So thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
Sure, thank you. Mr. Prinster, would you like to speak, or would you like to come before us and
Madam Mayor, he wanted to come in person at a later date.
Okay, then I'm gonna just say a couple of words and give council a chance. I did want to say thank you very specifically to our negotiating team for the city. You worked very hard and were very patient in this. I do want to thank Mr. Youngblood as well, and Mr. Prinster, and I'll do that again when he's here in person, because of all the work that you did on behalf of there are firefighters too. So we appreciate that work. And I will say, echo what both of you said. This was a very hard fought, sometimes negative negotiation, but it resulted, I think, in a really good collective bargaining agreement that will provide a strong foundation for a very cooperative relationship moving forward. And I think all of us on both sides, or all of us collectively, are really happy to think about that cooperation moving forward and put this behind us and sort of turn a new page, because that's what our firefighters deserve, and it's certainly what our community deserves. So thank you. Thank you to Eric. Thank you to Marie, and to our council as well, who's not here with us. I don't know, council members, you don't have to say anything, but if anybody wants to say anything, this is your moment to do so.
I appreciate everyone's patience and hard work throughout this process.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Youngblood, for your continued work. Thanks to all of our firefighters. And Later tonight, we will actually pass the salary ordinance and we'll do it in 3 readings in one night so that we can get that done and instantly, almost instantly implemented. I know that they're in human resources is ready to go. So, all right. We have no appointments to boards and commissions, and we're way ahead of schedule. So we now have, some time to kill before our 7 o'clock start. We're required to wait till 7 o'clock to start our regular meeting.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
if council doesn't need this 5-minute break that you're going to give, we could have our quick closed session in between.
Why don't we do that? So that would be under number 3 personnel, I believe.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to call for an executive closed session related to personnel, Missouri statute 610.021, open parens, 3 close parens.
Mayor Arnold,
Yes.
Councilmember Bliss.
Yes.
Councilmember Franklin.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander is absent. Councilmember Richardson.
Yes.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd.
Yes.
All right. You all are welcome to wait in the Gordon room. Those of you who are waiting for our regular meeting, we will get ourselves back here at 7 o'clock. And I won't too. Council for
Really?
December 19th. We welcome questions, ideas, and comments from persons in attendance. If you would like to make a comment, please fill out a speaker card. They're available by the door there. And we will call on you during the public comments and the remarks from community and visitors, which is coming up just seconds away from now. You are limited to 3 minutes in your comments, please, so we can complete our agenda. And if you are on Zoom and would like to make a comment, we'll ask you to please use the raise your hand function to do so. And I believe we can start with the roll call.
Yes, Mayor. Mayor Arnold,
Here.
Councilmember Bliss,
Here.
Councilmember Franklin.
Here.
Councilmember Smith,
Here.
Councilmember Alexander is absent. Councilmember Richardson.
Here.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd.
Here. All right, we'll start with the remarks of community and visitors. Before I call on anyone in the room, John Reeve has asked that, he was unable to be here and asked that we enter as an exhibit his comments that would have been his public comments. So if there's no objection, we'll go ahead and enter those comments. And we do not read comments into the record. I know we did that a little bit during COVID, but we do not do that. My first speaker card comes from Dave Buck.
Dave Buck, 124 South Elm. As we enter 2024 together, I have some strong beliefs and hopes I'd like to share. I believe that globally, nationally, and locally, diversity of thought, differences of opinion, and informed debate are signs of a healthy and engaged society. God forbid we should all think the same. But I also believe that sooner or later, we have to call a truce, bridge our divide, come together with respect and civility, find middle ground, and make necessary compromises to create mutually agreeable and beneficial win-win solutions that make and keep the peace and lead to progress. But for the 23 years I've lived here, Webster Groves has faced its share of big divides, but I believe our city does not do win-win particularly well. It takes 2 to tango, 2 sides to every coin. But consider the Mills project, the 5-year civil war between City Council and Webster U and Eden, Props S&W, St. Louis Artists Guild, the A4 District Duplex proposal, Douglas Hill, all ended in win-lose, if not lose-lose outcomes. No middle ground, no compromises, no win-win solutions, no peace or no progress. Yet, yet, this behavior can negatively influence our residents, where the opposite of peace is war, resulting in too often in resident fighting, distrust, et cetera, that brings out the worst in our community. But I also believe in hope. And to me, hope has come to Webster in 2 different recent ways that remind me that peace is possible. One is what you did in your work session, that after a lengthy impasse, the mutual agreement reached between the city and local 2665. Second, after some turmoil on city council, I was actually moved by David Franklin's just published mailbag letter honoring the former mayor, Jerry Wells. Thank you, David, for your letter. I really appreciate it. Hope is that there is a better, more positive, and compassionate way to resolve our differences than fighting, bad blood, grudges, false accusations, or name calling. Instead, harsh feelings are replaced with honesty, openness, respect, kindness, empathy as the proven pathways to peace and progress. Therefore, may these two examples serve as beacons of hope for all of us to positively change how our city government and community treats and deals with each other during times of divide, which we know are coming.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We also have a speaker card from Mr. Eric Post.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Could you give us your name and your address, please? I'm sorry, I forgot to say that because Mr. Buck's a regular and he knows to do that.
No problem. My name is Eric Post. I live at 17 Webster Woods Drive.
Thank you.
I'm glad to be here. I'm sure there was a moment when you all decided that you felt motivated to get involved and serve the community. And the moment for me was seeing this dream big with Prop W. And I didn't like spitballing from behind a computer screen, and I felt like I should address you all directly. So I wanted to just say with respect, I really backed what I believe would be progressive leadership in this city, and I'm all wholeheartedly behind you all. I just want to remind you that what often happens with progressive leadership is loose purse strings. And I would really encourage you to remember that we working families are paying attention, and $21 million is real money. I know that this money sources come from different places, but you know, the fact that we have to pay $14,000 for our preschooler is outrageous. The fact that the middle school is under-resourced and is crowded, and we have leadership there saying so to us, that they can't serve our children properly because they're under-resourced, is really outrageous. So to think that we're going to be spending $21 million when, excuse me, the firefighter issue was involving hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you guys labored over that for years. It was a big deal, over hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. When it comes down to $21 million unanimous vote, I would have liked to have seen more breaks on that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, do we have any new business from the mayor, from council?
Madam Mayor, do you just want to check online?
Oh, yes, thank you. Is there anyone online who would like to make a public comment? All right, then we will proceed to new business. No new business, then we'll go to new business, and we'll start with the Charter Review Advisory Board recommendations. So you have in your packet for this meeting, the revised bill number 9241, which includes at the moment all of the proposals that we have reviewed and asked the city attorney to put in legislative language for us to go to the ballot. And so the question to us becomes, what do we want to send for this ballot? We need to at least do the first and second reading tonight and make amendments if we have them to make. But I will just, in a little bit of context here, already on this ballot, we have city council elections, we have school board elections, we have two Metropolitan Sewer District initiatives on there, as well as Prop W. So that's 5 items already on the ballot. We have 10 items that are Charter Review Advisory Board related. We certainly can send them all. We do know that we have the expectation that we will send things to additional ballots at some point. So the question here is, you know, of what's listed in Bill 9241, what if, I assume we're going to send some, but what of it would we like to send to the ballot for this cycle?
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor.
Is your question, do we have any changes that we'd like to see to bill number 9241?
Correct. And the changes would be holding back until a future election for some things. If there's a concern that having 15 items on the ballot is too long a ballot for residents or community.
The items on the 9241 are the ones we discussed at our last meeting and agreed upon.
Those are all the ones we've agreed upon over the last several meetings. Yes.
I mean, I see as a benefit to them is that they're all in the same context and that they're directly for Webster Groves. Nothing really is involving, that we could stay focused on what's happening in our community with all of those things. So I don't see anything I would like to remove.
And most of those items are things to bring us in compliance with law, correct?
Yes, the vast majority of them are. The two that stand out to me that are not are changes to the preamble, which broaden the value statement for the city charter, as well as removing the residency requirement for the municipal judge. Beyond that, it's either modernizing language or bringing us into compliance with state law. And I guess part of the reason for asking the question is over time, there has been some concern about how long the ballot is. It doesn't appear to me that anybody up here has much of a concern about that.
They were all like controversial or like, would take a lot of explaining. I would be more worried about having a long list, but most of them are pretty straightforward.
And in terms of, I went back and looked at the prioritization from the Charter Review Advisory Board. It's all over the place. Some of them, more than half of them are high priority items for the Charter Review Advisory Board, but a few of them are not. So that doesn't really distinguish too much through this group.
I mean, I do think it'll be helpful to maybe have less questions in the future on future ballots, because then if they are more complicated to explain or require a little more community engagement, then we don't have to maybe worry about some of these in the future. I guess I'm kind of the same mind that it makes sense to do them all on this ballot still, even though there's a lot.
I'm a little concerned sending this many all at once. But I do think in terms of the need for public education and engagement, these are easier than the other things that we have left for further discussion. And that's part of the reason we left them for further discussion, is that there needs to be some more public engagement on them. But I do understand the argument of it. It's sort of, let's clear the decks a little bit so that we can get to those more controversial things. And to be honest, even if, say, for example, the residents of Webster Groves voted down the audit provision, we don't have, the reality is we don't have the tax information to do the audit under the charter timeframe. It's not going to change our way of doing business. So
We can always put it back up too at any time.
we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like in the event that we thought, oh, this is just a weird election because there was too much on the ballot, there's nothing that prevents us from putting it back on the ballot. as a
Yes, the
council.
same issue. Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think we can send it back and till the voters decide that we're insane for
That's it.
continuing to do it. Well, then in that case, since if there is no amendment to, well, we haven't even called for the first and second reading, but could I have the first and second reading of bill number 9241, please?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to call for the first and second reading of bill number 9241.
Second.
First reading, Bill number 9241, an ordinance providing for the submission to the qualified voters of the city of Webster Groves of amendments to the charter of the city, all of which should be submitted to the electors at the general municipal election on April 2nd, 2024, proposing amendments to the preamble in sections 2.12, 5.6, 5.18, parent 2, 7.6, 7.12, 9.2, 10.3, 13.4, and 14.9.
All right, is there discussion?
Yes, Madam Mayor. My amendment is not based off of any problem with what I see the ballot as. Mine is just from a substantive standpoint. And so as a result, I'd like to move to remove section 1, subsection G from the ballot. obviously I recognize that I need a second, but I'd just like to make the
Could you
motion.
please tell us which one?
Oh,
that
yeah,
is.
that's the eliminating the residency requirement for the city judge,
And what's that?
9.2.
So it is page 4 of, well, I don't know that you all have page numbers for the actual resolution. All right, do we have a second for that?
I'll second.
All right, so we have a second and discussion, please, of the amendment.
I really think that it's important that the judge who is deciding very personal issues have some stake in the community. I think that when you look at how we elect our judges or appoint our judges here in the state of Missouri and throughout this country, they live in the communities that they are adjudicating. While I understand the need to remove and eliminate the residency requirement for the city attorney, I don't think the same paradigm and the same factors should be applied to the city judge. I think the city judge is a more personal, more demanding job because of the power that we are entrusting in him or her. And as a result, I think it's really important that they live here within the community and understand the residents, understand also what the right adjudication should be based off of the community's willingness to either cite people, to punish people, or to give them leeway. I think that is only learned by living in the community rather than assessing it from afar.
But, David, I guess one of the concerns I have by not removing that is when we hired Neil, we had a very, very small pool of individuals to apply. And I'm not saying Neil is going anywhere, but if that ever happened again, we're still in a small part. And I know Webster Groves have a lot of attorneys and I know a lot of them, but they didn't apply.
This
Yeah,
isn't that
I
one
think
though.
but this isn't attorney, this is municipal judge.
Oh,
And we,
sorry.
yeah, and we,
All right, right.
I think we had a pretty good sized pool, I would say, and had at least 3 people we were willing to interview for the position.
I'm
So let's not, apples and oranges a little bit there.
I had a question just about in the future. In the future, if we want to combine courts with another municipality and they also have a residency requirement, like how that would be navigated. So that was kind of one of my thinkings, and taking that away is it would let us be able to partner more with other municipalities.
That's a fair point, something I haven't thought about as to how that would be envisioned. I guess operating from the structure that we currently have, which is we are only one court within one city, seems to me that the charter should be read for that purpose and not for any future, which can always be amended by this council with the vote of or put to the voters for a vote in the event that were to occur.
Okay.
So I just, this discussion did take place within the Charter Review Advisory Board deliberations. And I think fundamentally, at least to my recollection, part of the question here also was, we can, as a city, absolutely prioritize and still just hire from within the city. Does that need to be in the charter as a statement, right? Which, again, it's about what flexibility can or should we have as a city government, as opposed to what is fundamentally in the charter that we really can't do without moving to voters first. And again, obviously, the voters can say no to this.
Yeah, I'm going back to my statement, say about attorneys, but same thing when we hired the municipal judge. We had application they were shallow as far as their skills, who they were representing. Some of them didn't have that much experience. Fortunate to have what we have now. They had a good background and stuff. So I think they're just minimizing our pool of candidates. It's not good business sense.
I just kind of went back to look at the results of the survey that the Charter Review Advisory Board took with the residents, and they had 62% of residents who were in favor of removing that requirement. And I think that matters as well. So.
Right. Is there additional discussion? All right, let's go ahead and vote on the amendment, please. Does anyone need the amendment?
What's the
restate?
question?
Yeah, okay.
A vote yes would be removing this from the ballot.
Section G from
Okay.
this. So it doesn't go. to the-
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yes. Councilmember Bliss,
No.
Councilmember Franklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
No.
Councilmember Richardson,
No.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd,
No.
Mayor Arnold?
No. All right, so is there further discussion on the, on bill number 9241?
I don't have anything.
All right, then let's go ahead and vote on bill number, no, let's go ahead and we've had our second reading now that we need.
Bill number 9241, second reading. An ordinance providing for the submission to the qualified voters of the city of Webster Groves of amendments to the charter of the city, all of which should be submitted to the electors at the general municipal election on April 2nd, 2024, and proposing amendments to the preamble in sections 2.12, 5.6, 5.18, parent 2, 7.6, 7.12, 9.2, 10.3, 13.4, and 14.9.
All right, thank you. We'll move now to bill number 9242. Councilmember Franklin, could you call for the first, second, and third reading of bill number 9242, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to call for the first, second, and third reading of bill number 9242. And as justification for doing the third reading this evening, the compelling reason is that the new fire salaries need to be in place as soon as possible. So therefore, I call for the third reading. I don't know if that requires a separate vote.
we do need to vote for the compelling reason.
Oh.
So if we could have a second on that.
Second.
All right, so let's vote on our compelling reason, please.
Councilmember Franklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd,
Yes.
Mayor Arnold,
Yes.
Councilmember Bliss.
Yes.
All right, let's have the first reading.
Bill number 9242, first reading, an ordinance defining the pay grades of the classified and unclassified service of the city of Webster Groves, fixing the compensation for employees in said classifications, and repealing ordinance 9228.
Is there any discussion?
I just want to state that, because it doesn't really say it in the name of the ordinance, that this is related to the collective bargaining and the
Yes,
firefighters'
correct.
salaries.
Yeah, it is
Just
it's part of the
put that out there,
implementation.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's have the second reading.
Bill number 9242, second reading, an ordinance defining the pay grades of the classified and unclassified service of the city of Webster Groves, fixing the compensation for employees in said classifications, and repealing ordinance number 9228.
Any additional discussion? All right,
Third and final reading, bill number 9242, an ordinance defining the pay grades of the classified and unclassified service of the city of Webster Groves, fixing the compensation for employees in said classifications, and repealing ordinance number 9228.
thank you, Mr. Peterson. All right, we'll go ahead and have that vote, please.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd,
Yes.
Mayor Arnold,
Yes.
Councilmember Bliss,
Yes.
Councilmember Franklin.
Yes.
All right, bill number 9242 is adopted. Is there anything anyone would like to remove from the consent agenda? All right, could I have a motion, please, for the adoption of the consent agenda?
I move for the approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Councilmember
Thank
Richardson,
you.
Yes.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd,
Yes.
Mayor Arnold,
Yes.
Councilmember Bliss,
Yes.
Councilmember Franklin.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
All right, we have no appointments to boards and commissions this evening, and we finished our executive session, so I will, just since this is the last meeting before the end of the calendar year, at least, I do want to say thank you to my council colleagues and to all of our staff for all the hard work this year, and there's a whole lot more to come, but we need to also reflect on a good year. So thank you all for that. And unless someone else has something, we will stand adjourned.
I got one of these.